This is To See Each Other, where we explore how people are fighting for the future of rural America and how writing it off hurts us all. I'm George Gale. I'm a longtime community organizer and lifelong Midwesterner. And in this season of To See Each Other, we're heading to one of my favorite places, Wisconsin, to get to know a group of small-town seniors fighting for the dignity of the elderly and a better future for us all. In February of 2024, people for Pine Crest were licking their wounds. After a year of hard work and organizing, of digging through arcane and confusing financials, of fighting against the silence of the Lincoln County Board of Supervisors, the board voted to sell Pine Crest to a private buyer. The buyer, known locally as Karen Rehab and run by a couple who lives in Illinois, Grant and Andrea Thayer, they were mostly an unknown entity to the community, but operated a handful of other nursing homes in Wisconsin and Minnesota. What people for Pine Crest did know about Karen Rehab was that the Thayers had, in the past 5 years, shuttered 2 of their long-term care facilities. They moved their residents to other homes, a common outcome for privatized care. The group also knew that Karen Rehab's offer for Pine Crest had literal blank pages in it, leaving so many unanswered questions that the board refused to answer. Instead of accepting defeat, several frustrated Merrill residents and supporters of keeping Pine Crest public decided to run for the county board in the April election. This was a long shot, but at 10 at night on election day, I got a text from Mike McMahon, our organizer working with People for Pine Crest. Much to everyone's surprise, Don Dunphy, Christine Vorpagel, and other supporters of keeping Pine Crest County owned were elected. Judy Waller, who served on the board in the past, saw these wins as a good sign and validation of People for Pine Crest's fight.
Everyone who was running, they either won their campaign or they lost by maybe 3 to 5 votes. I think one competition was they lost by 8 votes. So everything was really close. So that tells me there's other people that believe that we should have change.
Board Chair Don Frisky, who had been an architect of the plan to sell Pine Crest, was voted out. Former prosecutor and new board member Don Dunphy says Frisky's defeat has a lot to do with his push to sell Pine Crest.
In my district, it seemed like it was 3-1, or at least it was overwhelming that people wanted to keep Pine Crest. With respect to the county board chair, I think that really did sink as a re-election campaign. Pretty much, generally, it was a referendum, the referendum that we didn't get through the legislative process on the sale of Pine Crest.
It was a joyful moment, a reminder of what's possible if you never give up. People could have thrown in the towel and went their separate ways. Instead, they followed the old adage that if you don't like who's at the table, change who's sitting at it. There was no political action committee or big campaign budget. People decided to run, knocked on doors, and talked to a lot of people about their support for Pine Crest, and they won. Newly elected and emboldened, Don Dunphy, a former prosecutor, lifelong Merrill resident, and People for Pine Crest member, filed a lawsuit to stop the sale. It was a long shot. Another one. Don, however, saw an opportunity.
I was heartsick when the sale passed. And I did tell the board the day that they passed the resolution to sell the property that I was going to sue them over it. I don't know if they thought I was serious or not, but I did. I knew that there was an escape clause in the sales contract that if there was litigation pending, that gave the buyer the opening, if they chose to take it, to terminate the contract. And I wanted them to know that I was going to play every card available to me to stop it.
In the meantime, the Thayers filed an extension on the closing date for the purchase. Originally scheduled for June 30th, 2024, the closing date was pushed to September, a move that yet again raised questions that nobody was able to answer. Here's Mike McMahon.
The buyer and Lincoln County said, we want to move this date back. They want to move it back 2 months. Okay, wonder what that's about. So that gets the gears going about, well, there was a lawsuit pending at that time. Maybe that was part of it. There was other things too. Did the new buyer pursue getting the bed licenses that they need to run Pine Crest? What about financing? There are other kind of questions, things that could have gone through that could have jeopardized this sale. The full county board, which had to approve this change to the contract, took it up at their mid-June meeting. And that was an interesting meeting. So we were there to say, well, you got to tell us what's going on here. Why does the buyer want to delay the sale? We've got concerns. What are you not telling us, basically? And they really zipped the lip. They would not say why the buyer wanted to delay. So, and it wasn't just citizens, it was members of the county board that were saying, you're asking us to take a vote to delay this sale, but you're not giving us the information that we need to make an informed decision. You keep not willing to engage with us.
On June 28, 2024, 2 days before the original closing date, the question of approval of the sale, whether or not the Thayers had applied for the proper licenses, whether or not financing had been appropriately negotiated, those questions didn't get answered. But people for Pine Crest won a major victory nonetheless. Here's Mike and Judy again.
We're in a meeting. We're in a Zoom meeting, which is pretty rare. But we were bringing together people in other counties, in Sauk County and in Portage County, where these kind of fights are also happening, to meet each other, to learn from each other, and also say, look, this is happening beyond our county borders, and we need to start looking at how we're going to fight this beyond our county borders as well. So this was an introductory meeting. People were getting to know each other, and we're talking and sharing. And there's a group of people on this Zoom call from the church, because that's where they had Zoom capacity. So I'm watching, and I see a little hand go up on a screen, because the people are pretty set back. And it was Judy Waller.
I didn't realize that Mike couldn't see me. I was off camera apparently, and I don't know how all those things work. But I was raising my hand and nobody was answering me. And finally I just blurted out, Mike, I got something to tell you.
Yeah, Judy, go ahead. Judy says, well, this is really good. I was just wondering if we were going to talk at all today about the buyers backing out of Pine Crest.
I told them about that they had to back out of the sale.
I was like, Judy, you're burying the lead.
It was just like, oh, wow. Oh, wow.
It was right there in the meeting. She got a text from somebody who either had a family member in Pine Crest or possibly somebody that worked there that said, hey, did you all hear about this? So we heard on this call that the buyer had backed away.
It was wonderful to see the joy because he's worked so hard too. But I could not believe that the sale was canceled. I couldn't believe it that happened. It just, yeah.
Was it the lawsuit? Was it pressure from people for Pine Crest? Was it the press? It was all of it. Organizing and fighting on many fronts for what's right. As Don Dunphy says, I'll take the win. The win, of course, doesn't mean the end of the fight. If you thought people for Pine Crest were energized with unseating board members who wanted to offload public services, or the private buyers of their beloved nursing home walking away from the deal, you haven't seen anything yet. At the July Lincoln County Board meeting, just 2 weeks after the Thayers rescinded their offer, Judy Waller gave a moving speech sharing their victory and people for Pine Crest's ongoing work to keep Pine Crest a healthy, sustainable, publicly owned operation.
We're really grateful that we're able to come here tonight to share the good news with you. Lincoln County's continued ownership of Pine Crest means that the county nursing home that we built and supported with our tax dollars and labor for decades will continue to provide care for the people of Lincoln County. Pine Crest is an important part of our community, and it is an essential part of our future. Our research this week included a meeting with North Central Healthcare, where we learned more good news to share with you tonight. Pine Crest operations ended on May 24th with a year-to-date of a positive balance of $555,442, and North Central Healthcare is estimating a projected balance of 1 to 1.3 million closing on December 3rd, 2024. Right. That is really good news, and Pinecrest has come a long ways. The Pinecrest Reserve has been growing and is in really good shape. This is something that we can solve both for today and for long term. We are ready to work with you towards solutions that will keep Pinecrest affordable, high quality, local county nursing home. And we are asking you to work with us to figure out a long-term plan to keep Pinecrest thriving. It's time to stop looking backwards and about time to start looking for a better future. We are here to do that work. Our question is, will you sit down with us so we can build a better future for Pinecrest and Lincoln County together? We look forward to working with you. Thank you very much. And thank you for the work that you've done.
Time to start looking for a better future. For people from Pinecrest, that future starts now and the work is immediate. Dora Gorski, for one, believes that starts with us all understanding that we're responsible for each other.
Well, I have hope. But I'm cautious. I think we have a lot of work to do. We have to convince these people that are so concerned about having enough money that there is enough money. I'm afraid sometimes that's lost with people because they get so involved in their everyday lives or worrying about the cost of the groceries or the rent that they don't see the bigger picture, that life is greater than the fact. Yes, it is important that you eat today. And it is important that people are not sleeping underneath the bridge. But the only way we're going to get there, in my mind, is if we work together as a community and provide for each other, not struggle to make sure that we have enough, but we struggle to make sure that everyone has enough. But we have to do that. We can do better for ourselves and our children and our future.
Isn't that the thing about organizing? The work never ends, but the victories are sweet. And when we lose, we have a choice. We can disband, give up, and walk away, or reset, hold together, and land a next move to action. The next move to action, in Wisconsin at least, was sharing our wins and lessons with people in other counties. As Mike McMahon shared earlier, People for Pinecrest was not the only group fighting off the sale of their county-owned nursing home. Big fights were popping off in Portage, Sauk, and St. Croix counties, with people flooding into county board meetings, organizing rallies, and making calls to their elected officials to stop the sale. And again, seniors were front and center of these fights. While old people bashing has taken root in our politics and popular culture, here in People for Pinecrest and across Wisconsin, older people are having a third, maybe even fourth act. Some, like Al Curtis, are fighting for justice with their last breath. Let me share a little bit about Sauk County, which is facing the worst-case scenario. In Sauk County, an hour northwest of Madison, the county board voted in September to sell the Sauk County Healthcare Center, which has been part of the community for more than a century. I first met the citizens for Sauk County Healthcare Center at a county board meeting this summer. They were not unlike People for Pinecrest, determined, angry, and not afraid of a fight. They were also almost all older county residents.
I speak for we, the people. We put you on notice that if you diabolically and underhandedly sell our community care facility that we paid for with our tax money against our will, and one or more of our citizens are harmed because of it, that there will be repercussions legally, personally, and civilly.
The buyer of their community nursing home is Aria Healthcare. Aria Healthcare, unlike the Thayers, has a dismal track record. Like many healthcare companies, the ownership of Aria have organized themselves under an array of LLCs and brands that make for an opaque web of activity and ownership that is difficult to track. The owners of Aria control at least 16 nursing homes across the Midwest, the majority of which are in Wisconsin. They have been written up by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services with more than 700 deficiencies and $1.6 million in fines over the last 3-year period. Deficiencies include failure to report suspected abuse, neglect, or theft in a timely manner, failure to provide enough food or fluids to maintain a resident's health, and failure to honor the resident's right to voice their grievances without discrimination or reprisal.
I'm going to be reading a review of people who had interaction with Aria of Brookfield. Aria Brookfield is one of the 3 LLCs that filed is Aria of Sauk County Healthcare.
While Google reviews might not be the most objective measure, these anecdotes echo what the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid say, and they are extremely difficult to hear.
Do not send your loved ones here. They don't even know their patient's name, so who even knows if they're getting the correct meds? Patients are neglected 24/7. Bed sores are bad. They leave patients in their urine and feces for who knows how long. The smell is so pungent in here that you will dry heave. State needs to shut it down.
This is written by the grandson of a resident of this Aria nursing home. Never send yourself or your family members here. I would recommend a mental facility over this rehab center. It's unbelievably dirty, smelling, and unprofessional. My grandfather's room hasn't been cleaned since Thanksgiving, and there are roach motels all over the place. Not to mention he has had 2 showers since Thanksgiving and was promised 2 per week. The beds are uncomfortable and gave my grandfather bed sores that weren't previously there. The halls and rooms smell of urine and feces. Every time I walk through the halls, I have to cover my nose. The smell is so unbearable.
The vote to sell the Sauk County Healthcare Center in September was a crushing loss. But as we learned from people for Pine Crest, a vote to sell is not the end of the story, not by a long shot. And this sale still has to be approved by the Wisconsin Department of Health Services in order to go through. In early October, we got a big break. Citizens for the Sauk County Healthcare Center were able to land a meeting with Federal Trade Commission Chair Lena Kahn. She traveled all the way to Baraboo, population 12,000, to meet with opponents of the sale, and her presence landed media that could help block it. The commissioner, who has famously sued Amazon for breaking antitrust laws, said, "We've been watching with some alarm as more and more mergers and consolidation mean that fewer and fewer players are coming to control important parts of the healthcare system." The fight is for all of us, and the seniors in Sauk County, Lincoln County, and across Wisconsin are continuing to fight. As Dora Gorski said, we have hope, and we know there's still lots of work to do. Next week on To See Each Other, I'll share the latest updates in Lincoln County, and we check back in with my friend, longtime journalist and lifelong Wisconsinite, John Nichols, about how Wisconsin's crucial role in the presidential election means that the issue of care is also on the ballot. Follow To See Each Other wherever you listen to podcasts and share with all your people. Visit toseeeachother.org to learn more about this fight. To See Each Other is a project of Edition and the Mashup American. It is executive produced by Amy S. Choi and Rebecca Lair of the Mashup Americans and George Gale of Edition. Senior editor is Sarah Pellegrini. Story consultant is Jeff Seelbach. Lead researcher is Melissa Lowe. Production managers are Shelby Sandlin and Andy Harris. Sound designer is Pedro Rafael Rosado. Original music composed by the Brothers Tang. Special thanks to Jen Cadillo and Mike McMahon of Edition.